Dear Karate Combat, I'm writing to you because I don't think you realise what you have done. My YouTube channel has never discussed martial arts before, but I am a long-time martial artist. Specifically, I'm a Thai boxer. There, that's me. I'm not a karateka, and outside of the 6 weeks of karate class that every child's parents inflict upon them, I have never studied the martial art firsthand. I am, however, a fan of full contact martial arts and the fighting game. I'm not making this video to bash you. I think what you're doing is cool, and I want it to be the best that it can possibly be, which is why I've got to tell you, I think you're going about Karate Combat completely the wrong way. Traditionally, WKA and JKA karate have never produced martial artists adept at fighting in a real fight. My definition of a real fight being a fight that doesn't get stopped after someone gets hit with a punch. So I'm all for taking these athletes who are used to point scoring and putting them in an environment where they actually have to fight rather than just score a point. There's just one problem. You've kind of created a wrestling league. Okay, now, I've probably lost some of you here, but hear me out. The reason your product isn't quite working is because point-based karate isn't a style designed with continuous fighting in mind, and your rule set isn't helping. A fighter like Lyoto Machida in the UFC is able to adapt his style to real fighting because he's able to use techniques outside of his own art, be it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or just stand-up techniques such as elbows, uppercuts, hooked punches and knees. He's no longer a pure karateka, but being able to use these techniques has allowed him to better adapt his genuine karate skills. When Lyoto Machida scores a point, he often does it with a reverse punch or a knee to the gut, a technique which is currently prohibited under your rule set. This is a big problem. You see, a big reason Lyoto Machida didn't get taken down very often in his prime is because you couldn't reliably shoot a takedown on him without the risk of ducking into a knee, something that, given Lyoto's fantastic timing, was incredibly likely. However, in Karate Combat, knee strikes are not legal, yet takedowns are. Karate assumes that a quick throw or sweep followed by a strike will end the fight instantly. That's fine for a point-based system, but once you're on a timed round, you have to deal with a real problem. It doesn't. In fact, you could strike a guy on the ground all day and not necessarily be able to get a KO. Enter Rafael Agaev. This dude is legit, that's why you hired him. He's one of the best karateka around, and while I don't know if he's ever spent any dedicated time training it, he has some pretty nice judo too. He won his fight by repeatedly taking his opponent down and punching him in the face. Why was he able to do this? Because the only striking techniques that are reliable for deterring a takedown are banned under your rule set. Whereas in point karate that approach would have got him the win immediately, instead Agaev's opponent is stuck in limbo of not being able to defend the takedown, not being able to fight on the ground, being stood up only to be taken down again, and not being able to lose until the final bell rings. There's one absolute in mixed martial arts: the better wrestler dictates where the fight takes place. And even if you're not an MMA organisation, the fact that you've allowed takedowns and ground fighting and banned the only means of defending it means that you have by fault created a rule set of karate where the key to victory is to wrestle and not fight karate. Right now, any college wrestler could familiarise himself with the legal throws in your sport and immediately bull rush any of your karate fighters and take them down on repeat and win the fight. This is a big problem, and if you have any doubt that a college wrestler could do this to a seasoned veteran of karate, just keep in mind that Royce Gracie successfully tied up every karate fighter he fought and took them down, and he wasn't even a particularly great wrestler. Your arena doesn't help either. These cool sloped walls you've got are doing nothing other than providing your fighters with a spongy surface to trip over, thus meaning that the takedowns will require even less skill to complete. There's also the problem with your overall production. My YouTube channel is about movies, so I have to find some excuse to talk about shot selection. Your production frequently cuts from action to give us close-ups of one fighter's torso, which might look very cinematic, but we're supposed to be watching a sport, not a martial arts movie. Okay, so I've just reeled off a bunch of complaints, so what do I propose as the solution? Well, firstly, get rid of the pit and either have an open mat or a ring, because those slopes are dangerous. Secondly, just stick to traditional methods of recording combat sports. Now for the big one. While I have the utmost respect for karate and those who practice it, the fact of the matter is that it just doesn't work for this type of fighting. And it won't be able to work under this current rule set against people who don't even practice the sport. By trying to make your sport look like traditional karate in banning hooking punches, uppercuts, low kicks and knees, it fails to realise what made K1 such a successful kickboxing organisation. K1 allowed karate to evolve and become something viable in today's martial arts world, something that could compete against Muay Thai and knockdown karate. My proposal is you keep the gi, you keep your martial arts heritage, but open up that rule set more. Allow knee strikes, allow hooked punches so that fighters are able to punish the fact that karate could drop their lead hand on every single punch they throw. Allow your athletes to develop into better, rounded fighters in all. Most of these techniques are taught in karate. You can still look like karate while sacrificing some of the more traditional techniques that don't work in realistic fighting, and that is what you want out of this, right? For karate to be brought into the modern age. If you want karate to become modern, you have to accept that the fundamentals behind point karate, both in technique and in rule set, are archaic and don't work for modern fighting. It's not a flaw inherent to all karate. Okinawan karate and knockdown karate don't have these problems. It's just point-based systems. While it's true that these changes will likely turn you into a shoot boxing organisation, that's not a bad thing in of itself. Hell, shoot boxing and a full gi sounds like it could be pretty cool. Kudo does it. That's all I've got to say. I hope you don't think I'm hating on you. This is just my advice from one martial artist to another.